for you. Yes, I do. I'm like your angel of love, girl. I've come to see you through. So when you cry, let me wipe your tears. When you're scared, I wanna be there to calm your fears. When you're in need, baby, ring my phone. I'll run right over and we'll make love all night long.
Due to recent changes in his contract, Mr. Murray will now be introduced as the 3-time best-selling author, 6-time fantasy football champion, CEO and heartbeat of the man cave. You know, I'm not doing this unless I get my money. I'm still waiting on this Cash App. When I get the Cash App, Glenn, then I'll post it. There we go. Without any further preliminaries, please stand and welcome Mr. Glenn Murray.
Oh, that's cute. Only a 3-time best-selling author?
Well, man.
Wow. 27 and talk to me.
Roger.
Especially since I get the formula now.
Oh, here we go. Roger, it's time to cancel Christmas on Mel. Can we go into that? Just to show y'all who running things around here. My contract was renegotiated, and I'm back, bitches.
Give her another prelude. She'll be back.
Hey, man, to me, the funniest thing was Roger going, oh, Lord.
I know, Roger, that wasn't in the script that I wrote for you. The oh, Lord part.
It was too much for even Roger to try to maintain. How y'all doing, man? What's cracking?
What's going on? What's going on, everybody?
Hey, was that you, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Man, you got the very white, sexy, sultry. It didn't sound like that in the green room. Hey, Steve waited. He waited until we pulled the plug, and then he's like, "I got something for their ass. Let me change my."
Steve took a shot of whiskey.
That's what I did. That was a Macallan. I just took some Macallan.
Okay.
Hey, man. Well, hey, brother. Good to have you back, man.
I'm glad to be here.
You are one of our favorite guests on the show, man. So we're glad to have you back, man. And you know, if you want to take about 30 seconds, man, and tell everybody about your business and where they can find you and how they can utilize you. Let's get that real quick because we always want to support you, man, and advocate for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'm the founder and CEO of Smelly Fresh LLC, residential commercial cleaning service, located at 1720 East 87th Street.
Dope. Yeah, man. We're glad to have you, man, and looking forward to your contribution to the conversation, man. Anything going on special with anybody, man, besides Glenn and his book that he's promoting and putting out there, man?
Sean, I'm just glad you showed up after your resignation, dude. I don't know if we can take it back, though. I think in the state of Illinois, once you resign, we have to accept it. So Raj and Keisha are going to be trying to be up the show. That's all I'm saying. But it's been fun working with you.
Hey, man, I had the kind of day that was really a good laugh. And I thought you were really, really downplaying yourself as you were laying it out there. I'm not as talented as everybody else, and da-da-da-da-da. These are Sean's words. Hey, man, hey. What the hell are you doing?
I thought that was pretty good. You know, the show needed a boost. I looked at the ratings the last 2 weeks, and they looked like Mel's dating history before he got married. Like, damn, negative numbers. Really? Really low.
You coming out of the gate.
I chose violence for this season. Now that I'm back with a new contract, they can't fire me. So I'm good. I can say anything.
I'm preoccupied with this delicious bowl of chili that I made to deal with Glenn's foolishness.
Hey, man,
what are we talking about today, Sean?
I'm moving for another excursion at Mr. Robeson's kitchen to get some good eating. So I think we need to try to get that on the calendar before the weather breaks, just in case it's not too cold for him to do something on the grill as well. Hey, man, I got a lot of stuff. I always have a lot of stuff I want to talk about, right? So much that I don't even know what I want to talk about first. So let me ask you this: how significant, and I'm asking this at the risk of not knowing, I don't know Steve's backstory like I know the rest of you guys. How significant is a caring male figure in your life as you grow into a young man and a seasoned man? How significant is that presence in your life? And Steve, because you are a esteemed guest, and I know less about your backstory than I do these guys that I'm on every week for almost 3 years with. Tell me what the significance of that is in your mind. What it was for you, wasn't for you.
Oh, it was very significant. I mean, my father, who just recently passed away, July 27th. Um, my dad was the epitome of the role model of a man's man. Worked 2 full-time jobs for 42 years. Raised 7 kids. One of my siblings being a special needs brother. My brother's autistic. Took care of my mom clear up into the time she passed away, and then he ultimately passed away. He was 91, but my dad was so significant in my life because he showed me about what it took to be a man, how to raise a family, what his work ethic was. I mean, he, for the last 17 years that he worked, he never missed a day, not one day in 17 years, 2 full-time jobs. And so for that, and that to me, just knowing his backstory, him being a Korean War veteran, yeah, I don't think that I would have the grind that I have right now if it wasn't for my dad.
Yeah, yeah. Mel, you talk a lot about your relationship with both your parents, but definitely your relationship with your dad, man. How significant do you think that is in the life of a young man, and speak to how significant it was for you?
Well, I didn't really have a relationship with my dad until I was grown. Like, my dad was always around, but he worked all the time. So, you know, track athlete in high school, played a couple of sports, but primarily track. Basketball in grammar school was big for me. My dad never came to anything.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a good example of work ethic, but my father didn't tell me he loved me till I was 39 years old. I never heard that from him. So, and not that I thought he didn't. I mean, he gave his life was an example that he did, but processing that growing up as a young man, I never had that. I never had he was supportive in the sense that he took care of his family financially, and we knew we could depend on him if we ever needed anything, but growing up, I didn't know what I needed per se, right? Outside of the basic essentials. And so it wasn't until I got older and realized what I thought I was missing and was able to have those conversations with my mom and eventually my dad. And as he got older and realized the fragility of life and started expressing himself more, I can't say that I ever really had that,
So how did that impact you, good or bad? Because I've seen that impact somebody positively. Like one thing I say about my father and I had a great relationship. I wouldn't say that it didn't exist when I was younger. I would say that it modified as I aged. It modified as our lives looked differently. And by the time he started battling cancer, there was a bit of a reversal. And then I'm taking him to his chemo, and then I'm in more of a leadership role in his life. And at one point when he fell on some unemployment times, I had been at my employer long enough that I could get him an interview and get him a job based on my name, right? And so our relationship just shifted, I would say, as opposed to not really having one. It took on a different look. But I would also say in love that my father showed me as much who I didn't want to be as a man as he did who I did want to be as a man. And I didn't take it personally. I just took the lesson, right? So even in that, Mel, were there things that maybe you even yearned for, that motivated you, to be the male you are now?
Yeah, so my dad is an excellent example of protector provider, right? He was not an example in my younger years as nurturer. He was supportive in his own kind of way, and I don't knock him for it, But I did know that that's one of the reasons I was the way I was with my girls, because my dad was never at anything, so I was at everything. My dad didn't tell me he loved me till I was 39, which I knew that he did, but it was never an expression of it. My girls are probably sick of hearing it from me. So
Did he have a different relationship with Dave than he did you?
not
And was
really,
it tangible? Okay.
not really. It was about the same with Dave. My mom had a different relationship with Dave because I was the practice child. And so everything she learned on me, she used on him. It was great for him.
She got it right.
She knew he could fall out of a tree and be all right after you fell out of a tree.
Well, no, it wasn't so much that. It was my mom too was one that never came to games or anything. But when Dave started playing basketball, she was at everything. And when we talked about it later in life, she said, "You were so independent. You were so out there, expressive," which is difficult for me to believe because I was an introvert, right? I guess I was expressive when I had to be. I was expressive because I played basketball or I played sports. But she talked about my independence and how Dave went to a school. He went to Beasley for grammar school. And so from where we lived, there was no easy way for him to get there on his own in a timely fashion at that young age. So she drove him to school. Where I went to school, it was one bus. Where when we played basketball, if I caught the bus or walked to 79th and Jeffrey from 78th and Colfax, the team van was taking us to the game. My mom had to go to the games because Beasley didn't have a team van, right? That every parent or person was responsible for getting them there. So she stuck around just so she wouldn't have to drive and come back. So later in life, I understood that she was there because she had to be there. But when she was there, she was totally there. School colors, old coffee cans with some coffee beans in it, making noisemakers, wrapped in Beasley bees, colorful construction paper that she made. And I'm just like, where was all of this when I was playing, So I get the difference. And you're right, Sean. I think our experiences either lead us to be exactly like them or do exact opposite of them. Those of us that are smart enough or have the wherewithal, we take the best of both. What they did wrong, what they did right, and we try to take the best of that and pass it on to whoever we're raising.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the perfect way of looking at it, Mel. And before I ask these other guys to chime in, I think about my I have two older brothers, but I grew up with one. My oldest brother didn't grow up with me. And the difference that I saw in my relationship with my father was that there are 4 years between me and my brother that's directly older than me. And that was just enough for me to be in the way when he was trying to teach my brother shit. Right? So it would be stuff with the cars or stuff with, Steve, how to fix something or how to, you know what I'm saying? And I was just small enough to kind of be in the way, asking too many questions and a distraction. And so as I got older, I felt like my brother by default learned how to do a lot of things that I didn't know how to do. Just based on the fact that when my dad was able to teach him, he had to kind of focus solely on him because I really wasn't there yet. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I think we had a similar relationship. My brother was also old enough. I just thought about this in telling the story. My brother was old enough that my dad got him a job the summers between college when he would come home. But years later, I got my dad a job based on where he was. And that's kind of the perfect example of how life can shift and it require different things of you. Glenn, we've had the pleasure, man, of spending time with your dad on the show and know how amazing he is. I don't understand how he would have anything to do with something or somebody like you. However, his yo to the noops, his presence was something that was powerful and we appreciated it. But I ask you the same question: how significant do you think that is, and speak to what it meant for you in your life?
Yeah, I think it's extremely significant, but sometimes we're a function of our parents, good or bad. We take a little bit of everything we've learned growing up and we become them. And the older we get, the more we develop those tendencies that we remember from them. So my dad really, really came back in my life at about age 17, 18. So I was raised most of the time by my mother, who taught me to be fiercely independent, who taught me to believe in myself above all things, who taught me that life may not always be fair, but you have to keep going and you have to understand it. So I took that with me in business, in life, corporate America, everything else. What I learned from my dad was you're going to make mistakes as a man. You're going to make mistakes. You need to understand those mistakes and you need to go back and correct them. And I wrote a little bit about that in Lessons for a Little Boy, about going back and correcting the mistakes. And it may just be saying, I'm sorry to somebody, or I messed up, and just, dealing with it and facing it. When my dad came into my life, he explained kind of where he was when I was born, what he was going through, what his relationship with his father wasn't always great. So I understood that. So he didn't have a basis to come at his oldest son, or his second son for that matter, with the love and respect that he had to develop. So he had to really learn that love and respect. But what I learned from him is no matter how old you are, you can learn to be a different and a better person. You don't stop learning because you call yourself grown. You keep learning in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. You keep learning. And that's the most valuable lesson I learned from him. And he always said he loved me, and that was great. And I probably never said it back just because my independence and was like, okay, I'm good, whatever happens. And I remember we had a talk one time and I was like, I think I was in my early 30s and he was like, are you mad at me? What is, whatever you want to say it. And he went to all of us and did this. And I told him, if I rob the bank tomorrow, I can't blame it on you not being in my life. I'm a grown man now and I have to accept whatever I do. I'm not going to use you as my fall guy for all my failures. And that's the one thing I learned, but I appreciated what he said. And I actually, the first time I ever told him I loved him, I'll never forget it because it was at my grandfather's funeral, his father's funeral. And he had to eulogize his father. And you could see it in his face through all that they had been through, all the difficulties of the relationship. And, Southern men, you raise them like a man. You love your daughters, you raise your sons, you do, you keep them at a standoff. And he had told me about some issues they'd had. But when it came down to it, he knew that his father loved him, but he didn't necessarily love him the way he needed it. So he spent the rest of his life trying to love his children the way he thinks we all need it. And I can only appreciate him for that. I learned more about being a man from his mistakes than I did just, developing and growing through my own.
Two things before I hear from Robert. The listening to you guys made me realize, and to be honest with you, I hadn't ever given it this conscious thought because we can be a bit self-indulgent. And so I'm always very aware of the fact that I don't think much like Mel. I don't think I ever, he got it at 39. I don't think I ever heard my dad tell me he loved me. But in retrospect, I don't ever recall telling him. Right? But I think that we both showed each other that we loved each other. And I think that my dad was born in 1929, so he was from a different era of men that weren't very comfortable with the emotional space anyway. I always tell people that I grew up, me and my brother, we would kiss my mother goodnight and shake my father's hand when we went to bed. And so now I see the dysfunction in that. But then it was kind of just what men do kind of thing. And we didn't really see the dysfunction in it. And Robert, before I ask you to jump in here and give me what your thoughts are, I want to tell you guys what made me ask the question. I was watching an interview with Timothy Hardaway Jr., and he was saying that in his teen years, Tim Hardaway was so hard on him. He was more a coach than a father in his entire life. And so they didn't really have a great relationship, and all he really felt like was that Tim just rode him. Everything was about him riding him. You're not doing this well enough. You're not doing that well enough. You're not doing this. He said one day he came to the game, and Tim Jr. had a dope game, had done real well, and he said when they got in the car, he said Tim Sr. said, "I want to tell you something." He's like, "Oh shit, here we go with this same old lecture shit again." And he said he apologized to him, and he apologized for being more of a coach than a dad in a lot of moments in their lives. And he said it was something about his dad coming to him in that humble space and owning that and apologizing. He said that was really the moment that his life took off. He said there was something so freeing about it, because we can be in bondage by other people and not even realize it. And he said his dad did that, and that really changed everything for him, man, and set him off. So Robert, I'm sure you've heard enough, but I still want to hear your thoughts on it.
Man, oh man, I'll tell you guys, there's so many similarities. My dad worked 2 full-time jobs, right? All his life until he retired. So in terms of having space with him or time with him, it was slim to none. Mm-hmm. But one of the jobs that he had, he was a mechanic at a bowling alley. And so my mother would say, "Hey, listen, I can't really tell you how to be a man. I can't tell you, really about the birds and the bees, because, I wanted to have sex. I wanted to know something, because I was over at Harlem, Steve. So I'm trying to, you got all these women over there at high school, and, and I want to know what's going on and what I'm supposed to do." And so my mama said, "Hey, listen, go hang out with your dad. Let him teach you some things." My dad taught me some stuff about love, ladies, with back then they used to give candy, chocolate, flowers and things like that. And that was a thing that my dad taught me. But Sean, you all kind of talked about it already, but my dad taught me about how to fix things around the home, be an electrician. Light goes out. I'm not paying anybody to go do it. He's not. He's actually showing me how to do it, since I was the only boy. But man, I got to tell you, when I was listening to you guys talk about if your dad told you he loved you and all that sort of stuff, as I think back, I don't know that, that my dad told me that either. He did tell me when, I used to give Bible talks at church or what have you. And my dad would say, "You did a good job," even though he made me nervous as hell because he was there, right? He would look for ways to inspire me. He didn't make a lot of my baseball games. Now, he did make all of my bowling, because I was a pretty good bowler, but that was because he worked at the bowling alley, right? So we're spending time together, there. But it's, as I look back, I miss my dad. I had the privilege of eulogizing him at his services, and it just made me think, because the church saw him as a Superman, and I had to really tell them what type of Superman he was to me. And so he could pretty much do anything. And as you all said, we try to emulate it. I think I talk about this in the book, Lessons for the Little Boy, but I tried to work 2 full-time jobs, as well. I only lasted maybe 2 years, right?
Well, what I find funny, man, and everything is so era specific, and I don't know, I may be speaking out of turn, I may be totally wrong, but I think most of us, man, you know, the way the world is now was different than the way the world was when they were coming up. And most of our fathers pretty much had one, maybe two jobs our whole life. You know, you get that job and you hold on to that job. And my father, man, my father had two jobs as an adult, dude. He moved from Tennessee. He worked for a company called Revere Sugar that changed to Sucrest. He was a centrifugal machine operator, and he worked there for like 31 years, dude. And then after that, he worked at a hospital with me. You know, hell, I've had 3 jobs in the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it is dictated by the era and time, you know, and unfortunately, I think even the emotional space is dictated by that. You know, we get to see a lot of men shake that off. We get to see a lot of men say, hey, I'm still a man, even when I tell my sons I love them. And they didn't see that like we did. You know, our 55 now isn't 55 then, you know, because we're so much more health conscious and we're so much more educated about what we put in our bodies and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of stuff is a lot more era specific than we even give it credit for. But I'm going to use that to roll over into my next question. And Robert, I'm going to ask you this first, since I did you the disservice of making you hear 4 or 5 people before you answer.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
When are you at your very best? What happens? What exists? What's going on when Robert Hazard feels like, hey, Mel, the rim is this big? You know what I'm saying? Like, when are you at your very best?
At the bar. Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to answer for Robert? My bad, Rob. I'll let you answer that.
That means all the time, since the bar can be anywhere, Steve. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Glenn, hold on. Clearly, he's not at the bar.
Hey, don't be telling my secrets, Steve.
Just let me say that for the record.
Your real good friends will tell the truth about it, Robert.
You seen him in action, Steve? You saw him in action, huh? You know that ain't it.
We went to high school together. I've known Robert since he's 14. Let me say for the record, he's clearly not good at the bar. But I move on. I digress.
But that was my birthday party, so I mean, come on, you can do whatever you want to do at the birthday party, you know. But as long as
don't let Steve intimidate you, man. Don't let Steve intimidate you.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Sean, he don't want me to tell that story, but
listen.
Steve got them best friend stories, boy. See, my best friends can't be on here.
We're gonna have to talk to Roger about taking him out. Hey, listen, you know, for me, every freaking day I wake up, I'm at my best right now. Every freaking day. When I look in the mirror and see who I am and think about the things that I've accomplished, man, I'm on top of the world, really. I mean, it's essentially that. And the fact that I get to, you know, I have 2 beautiful kids and some grandkids that I get to talk to and experience time with and share memories. Man, I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't. I mean, I think, Sean, just to cap that is what I have been doing, which I fell away from, is my relationship with God. So I am on a mission to get that relationship back and get back to where it used to be, because that is something that I miss. But man, every day I get up, I am thankful that I can say a prayer, go to bed, say a prayer, and I wake up and I get to kick it with you guys on Thursday night. There you go.
Hey, Steve, I'm gonna come to you next, but you mentioned an interesting thing, Robert, with the church thing. There are people that go back with me, and I used to be that guy. You know, like if we're all out and somebody has to pray over dinner, you know, I'm the guy that they're gonna have, or I'm the guy they're coming to church to sing because I'm doing a lead at 7 and 11, you know. And then my relationship with the leadership of the church began to, me, Raj, and my relationship with the leadership of the church took a hit. And so while I feel like I'm confident that I have maintained my relationship with God, my relationship with the church is very different now. And I am looking for the time and space to find a way to get that back. But I'll be honest, right now I've been disappointed by church leadership too much in recent years, and oftentimes I feel like they're just people with a skill set that they couldn't make work somewhere else, and they translated it into the church. There are too many times where the absence of the heart for God's people is so clear, and so it just kind of made me back away from my church activity. But my relationship with God, I feel, is solid. I mean, I know that there's nothing I can do, big or small, without God. So Steve, talk to me, man.
Hallelujah. Can I get an A and a B? I thought he was gonna break out into "I know I am."
I know I've been changed.
I thought he was gonna break out into a hymn.
Steve, when are you at your best, man? When is every shot falling in, everything you do turning to gold?
When everything's shit. When everything is down and I feel it's like back into a corner, that to me is when I'm at my very, very best, because I'm laser focused. I thrive under pressure, but I will say that that my focus is what Robert alluded to, and Sean, what you just said, is because of God. I mean, I don't take credit for any of the success I had when I was in corporate. Then when I left corporate, and I left corporate well into my 50s, and everybody was like, dude, you crazy, you got a good job, you making degrees, getting money, you're going to sit there and open up your own business. I said, yeah, because I knew that's what God was leading me to do. I was done with corporate. I was burned out with corporate. And so when I took this new endeavor on, and I knew I was going to make it work, he put it in my mind. So it to me, it was like he wasn't going to lead me here to have me fail. But he did say, but son, you got to put in that work. So I put in that work. And so to me, when things are at its worst for me, as Robert says, I get up in the morning and I hit my knees and I say my prayers, and then I deal with the cards that are dealt to me. And if that's the last day that I'm going to be here on this earth, then I'm good, because God led me to that. So for me, it really lets me know that when things are at the very worst, I'm at my very best, and that's where it is for me.
I like that, Steve, because that basically means that because everything I hear is you covering other people, you covering the people around you. When everybody else is in struggle and they can't step up to the plate and meet the need, that's when you feel like you're at your best, because you have the ability to dig deep and step forward for them. And that's super, super powerful. Total Jen, I don't know that you have bad days, so it might just be any day that ends in Y. But I'm gonna ask you anyway. When are you at your best, Newt?
When I'm far, far away from Glenn is usually
Raj cancel Christmas.
Usually,
man, I think we need to sing a song.
He's having his best day.
Raj, this what we're doing, Raj.
I wanted him to have a good day.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the cave and okay, my spotlight's over with. Okay, yeah. But yeah, I don't like blanket answers, right? Personally, for me. So, when am I at my best? It depends on which area of my life you're talking about. You know what I mean? Because sometimes my business could be going great, but family might be suffering.
Right.
Because I'm making the sacrifices to get the business where it needs to be, so ultimately I could take care of the family better. So it just kind of depends. I will tell you this though, when I'm operating at my peak in any area, if I had to give a blanket answer, it is when I'm constantly involved in personal development. These books that are in my office ain't for show. I've read 80, probably 85% of the books that are in my library, and the other 15% that I haven't gotten to is just because somebody gave me a recommendation and I got it. But I bought them while they were top of mind, and I just haven't gotten to them yet. Like I got 4 books here by Dr. Joe Dispenza that I haven't even touched yet. But like, like right now, I just posted a picture a little while ago with John Maxwell's 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. And I'm part of an accountability group where every morning at 7:30, we talk about what we did in business the previous day. We hold each other accountable, and then we discuss one of the principles from the book. So when I'm reading, when I'm listening to stuff on Audible or YouTube or Apple Music or whatever, and I'm constantly programming my philosophies and planting those seeds. Every day you wake up, there are two foremen that go to work in your mind, the negative one and the positive one. And the one that you feed is the one that will win, right? So I try to feed that positive foreman every day so that when he goes to work and he's leading my thoughts, I'm functioning at a higher vibration, a higher capacity than I normally would be. And so that's my blanket answer. But it just kind of depends on which area of my life you're talking about overall. Like right now, I'm up to 220 pounds. This is the heaviest that I've ever really been.
That's that good loving, boy. That's that good loving.
This was COVID weight. I had this before Mo, so I can't even blame. I wish I could blame her for it, but I haven't worked myself into a rhythm to get my weight back down or do anything like we went to Savannah for my birthday, and on my birthday I took my last drink for a year. So I'm not drinking at all until my birthday of 2023. And so I have a picture of me at 27. I have a picture of me at 37, and I know what I look like in those 2 years. And so next year will be 47. In both pictures, I have my shirt off. And so I need to be able to have a comparative analysis of 3 decades next to each other. So now I have something that drives me. But again, that's one of those things that I get from a book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. The reason why you do something will ultimately determine your success. It's the why we do it, not the what we do, that really matters, right? So yeah, that's my blanket answer. When I'm involved in personal development or when I'm writing a book for Jamie Gill, that's another good time. Because we have to do everything we can and keep putting Glenn in books so that he can eventually be a 7-time best-selling author.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna throw up. Hold on, I'm gonna go off camera and throw up.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
When you get done throwing up, Glenn, tell me when you're at your best.
All right. When am I at my best? So for the last probably 6 years, I've challenged myself. I went from probably the lowest point, taking care of my mom and watching her pass away from cancer. That was the absolute lowest point in my life. I'm not gonna lie. That was the most difficult thing I ever had to do. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So I had to really pick up the pieces from there and look at my life and say, okay, what's next for you now? Because for the last 2 or 3 years, all you've done is be a caregiver. All you've done is push all that energy, all that love, all that compassion to her and take care of her. And in therapy, my therapist asked me, what makes you happy? And I actually couldn't answer it.
Well, Glenn, not to cut you off, but to cut you off, I think a lot of times people don't realize that that's what happens when you're in that position. It consumes so much of your life that when the need isn't there anymore, you almost don't know what to do. There are a lot of things that are like that. Broken hearts are like that. You can nurse a broken heart, man, for years and wake up one Wednesday and be over that person and have no idea what to do with your day because you used your day to mourn that loss.
Directing it towards that person. So for the last few years, I really kind of got back on track, or I feel like I got back on track and focusing on the things that made me feel good. And a couple of things I've been able to do in business, just helping businesses grow, helping others grow. I've been in rooms now where billions of dollars have been moved around, and I've helped direct funds to start up businesses and things like that. And I enjoy that. And I feel like I'm at my best doing that. Not because I'm making money off of it in particular, but because I'm helping somebody else grow. I'm helping somebody else who might be able to feed their family, who might be able to pass a legacy business on down to their children and their children's children. So to me, that means a lot. I'm at my best when I'm with you guys and when we're sitting here actually being as transparent as possible. And we've had some moments over the last 3 years where we were seriously transparent. And I think we were all at our best because we fed each other and poured into each other. And I'm at my best when I'm doing that. I'm at my best when I'm pouring into my friends, my family, and the people I love and care about. Um, I'm at my best on Mondays because Monday is the day that everybody dreads. So I reach out to Monday like it's a championship fight and I'm ready to go. I'm ready for you. Every Monday, I'm ready for whatever it brings me. And if you approach life like that, and to Mel's point, what you wake up with is what you will feed yourself with. If you wake up dreading something, your whole day is going to be filled with dread. If you wake up with the energy and the mindset you're going to tackle this and go for it, you're going to be much more successful. So I'm at my best when my mind is at its best, I think. We touched on spirituality, and I'm thinking I still got a ways to go with that because I was very mad at God. I'm not going to lie. I was super angry, because you took somebody away that believed in you to the day she died. She just knew she was going to be healed. So you have to reconcile that. And I had a really good conversation with Bishop Whitaker about that because he had lost his mom too. So we had that in common besides just being great friends. And he said he had to deal with it as a pastor and trying to reconcile it. So I'm like, okay, if he's dealing with it and also ministering to other people, I just need to, figure out how to deal with that too and build his strength. But I think that relationship is strengthened by the people that are in my life and the people that are sent to me to tell me you have a purpose and you have things you need to do and you need to keep going. I think that makes me better too. The people that I invite into my life make me better. You're at your best when you surround yourself with the best people that you can.
That's pretty dope, man. And I'm led to share with you guys that you're all pretty dope. You're all pretty dope guys, man. If you think about it, every one of your answers was very different. And Robert, did you answer yet?
Yeah, man. But y'all got me crying over here. I'm just
I didn't
wondering.
mean to have you crying, Rob.
Yeah, I did. I'm always
feel
looking
like-
for tears. I'm always looking for
I
tears.
feel like the doors of the church.
I know, really. We talking about God,
You
relationship.
know, I just want to chime in because it's something when we talked about earlier. We talked about dads, and we segued into this topic right now. Is when before my father died, I was taking him to his last doctor's appointment. And I was just driving. He looked at me, and I thought something was wrong. I said, "Dad, what's wrong?" He said, "You're Mr. James now." And
Oh, wow.
for the longest time, I never allowed people to call me Mr. James because that was my dad. I always say, "Mr. James, my father, please call me Steve." So he said, "You're Mr. James." And I said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" He said, now you're the leader of this family." He said, "You're Mr. James now." And so I took that and I said, I promised him that I would never stain him or my mother's name. I would never stain it. And I would make sure that I carried that legacy on for them. And so when you always talk about that, it's so raw for me because my father just died in July. And he was 91. And when you said, Sean, about your father being 29, my father was born in 1931. So he was 91 when he passed away. So it's a lot when I took from all four of you all, when you all were saying these things, I resonate with each and every one of you all, especially when Mel was talking about what his father, he didn't do. I mean, my father worked. He came to our game. He came to my games. He came to my stuff, and he never missed these. But it took him, if you said to him, I loved you, then he would say, I love you too. But he would never say, I love you. And he just, without being prompted. So I resonated with Mel when he said that. And I thought about a lot of those things. And then when Glenn just said about watching his mother die, I was angry too, because my mother died early in 1999 and she was only 62. And I was like, why did you take away? That was my friend. I mean, that was the person who taught me how to be a man. My father taught me what it was to take care of a family, but it was my mother who taught me how to be a man. And I felt that he took her away, and I was mad for a long time because of that. So for everything that you all said, I'm sorry I got emotional, but that just got to me.
No need to.
This the cave. This the cave, baby. This emotions are welcome. That's what the cave is for, man. And
all brothers getting together talking, man.
Hey, man. And I shared that because my mom, man, died a day after her 55th birthday. You know, and it was as I aged that it's constantly a reminder of how young that is. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's sweet.
I just told her, I said, they can see me, baby. They can see me.
That's all right. That's all right.
That's all right.
Hey, Steve. Two things, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got somebody there to plant a kiss on your head.
Right.
And the second thing is, I guarantee you that your dad is okay with the Mr. James you are.
Absolutely.
I 100% guarantee you.
I appreciate that. And that's love. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Hey, man, I got I wish I had time for the two things I want to talk about, so I have to choose between the two. There was a young lady whose video I saw earlier this week, and she basically said that men are so good at minimizing their needs because that's what we've been taught to do. It's no big thing, baby. I'm okay, baby. Don't worry about me, baby. We have been so conditioned to minimize our needs that now a lot of women either don't think we have needs or don't take our needs very seriously, because our machismo and the way we've been groomed has always been to not show ourselves as needy and weak, right? Do you think that there's some truth to that we've been groomed to downplay our needs so much that women start to feel like, okay, he don't need shit, because every time I make a big deal out of his needs, he's like, baby, I'm good. You know, Glenn, what do you think?
I think so. I think you're right. I actually agree with you on that. I think we, but I mean, it's a human habit to say, hey, even if we're going through something, if somebody says, you okay? What are you going to say? I'm good.
Well, if you're a man, I don't think women have that issue. I think women will lay it all out and roll around on the floor with their girlfriends and, you know, and cry until they got to rehydrate. But, you know, we see it as a little different.
I think it depends on the kind of woman you're with too. Because if you can't be vulnerable with your woman, then who can you be vulnerable with?
Hey man, well, let me say this. I don't think a man should be with a woman that he can't be vulnerable with.
Right.
But I know men that are with women that they can't be vulnerable with. So it's a matter of what you see as normal. You know, I'm grounded enough to know that's a need I have. It may not be frequent, but if there's a day that I need to go to sleep crying in your lap, you need to be able to handle that.
Right. And you know if I'm crying to you, there's something really wrong with me because I'm not the crier. So
you in the kitchen cutting onions, Glenn. You're in the kitchen
cutting
onions.
And, you know, and I touched my eye. That's what had happened. But no, I mean, you need to have somebody that has that level of sensitivity to you. As much as you have the sensitivity to her, people talk about relationships being 50-50. No, relationship is 100 to 0 if you need them. If you need their 100 and you don't have 0, guess what? That's what the relationship is. The relationship shifts. Just like people grow together or apart when they get older, your relationship needs to shift and be able to support you wherever you are in your life. If you have a difficult day at work, you need to be able to talk about your difficult day just as much as she does. That's where relationship communication, you know, and just kind of being as one are so important. And just that partnership.
Mel Rob, talk to me. You're in a very unique and new space. What do you think about that, man? Are you? And this isn't a question about Mo necessarily. I'm asking you. Are you so comfortable with minimizing your needs? I see you as a guy a lot like me. I don't have any hangups. Like, you're not going to. Masculinity is not going to be a cage for me, because I need to be who I need to be in whatever space I need to be that, right? And that is not dictated by my gender. It's dictated by the fiber of my humanness, right? And so I pose that question to you. Are you of the breed that feels like, you know, you've become so accustomed to minimizing your needs, or are you one of those that makes it very clear? Look, this is what my needs are, and they need to be met, and you need to be aware of it.
Again, this isn't a blanket answer for me, depending on what the particular need is. Whether it's in a personal relationship, a romantic relationship. I mean, because you could express needs to women that are your friends, and you could have a particular need from them as far as understanding or conversation or expectations or whatever. So it kind of depends. I do think that society as a whole, and in our circles, have glorified the suppression of feelings and emotions for men, so much so that we think it's commonplace, or it's become commonplace, and we think it's natural. And because we act as if it's natural, it has trained women to do the same, right? So we've been trained to say, I'm good, I don't need anything, I'm all right, I got
So
it.
you say they're just following the lead of the world.
They're just following, what and it's not until we have conversations like this, or we open up, or we pull them to the side and say, hey, listen, I'm not or we go to therapy, right? Or whatever the defining moment is, where it becomes okay for us to express what it is that we need, or have a moment of vulnerability. I think that vulnerability is seen as not such a sign of weakness, when in all actuality, vulnerability is like the ultimate strength, right? If you have not watched Brene Brown's The Call for Courage on Netflix, you need to do so. And it's just one of those things where, as a society, and it's not just in this space, Sean, or this particular conversation about this one issue, if we look at what we're conditioned to do, and then we evaluate if that feels natural, right? And if it doesn't feel natural, then maybe we need to change it. Just because we've been conditioned to do it doesn't mean that it's what we're supposed to do. I started this talking about working out and losing this weight and all of this stuff. I found a guy on Instagram who has a workout program called Functional Patterns, and it's all about exercise without pain. It's all about really being functional, because a lot of the traditional stuff at the gym and things we learn to do, playing football, basketball, running track, with this linear repetition and all of that, doesn't contribute to our functionality, and it ends up being too stressful on our joints and all of these things. But we were conditioned to do it. Every person we see, every bodybuilder, every athlete or whatever has gone through all of these things. And we've been taught, this is what you do to get strong. This is what you do to be healthy. This is what you do. And then we wonder why we have crepitus in our shoulders and bad knees and hips and all of this other stuff, because we've been doing stuff the wrong way for so long. When we find something new, everybody laughs at it because it looks different than what we've been trained to do. That's the same thing in relationships. Women, I think, sometimes are scared of the conversation because it's so different than anything that they've ever seen before. And it's like, well, I don't know what to do with this. And the easy thing to do, a confused mind does nothing. So the easy thing to do is to do nothing about it.
I've often said a man that communicates openly often does that to her, because it's something that she sees so rarely, that when she does see it, it's so foreign that it seems dysfunctional to her, when in actuality it's just somebody that's free from that limitation that we have sold ourselves.
Right, but it's incumbent
to ourselves.
But it's incumbent upon every man and every woman, if you're entering into a relationship, to realize that you're not entering into the last relationship you were in. And if you start to recognize that, to Mel's point, then you need to get out, because you're repeating bad behavior.
Absolutely.
So if you're treating that person like you treated the other one, if they remind you of the things the other one did, then you're not progressing. You are not progressing. It's not them, it's you. And you've got to recognize that and get out of it.
You know, I use it there that said, don't penalize me for past transgressions. I said, whatever you did for somebody else, judge me on me. Don't judge me what happened to you before. And to Mel's point as well, is that in relation to my men now, I told her, I said, I will not get into any relationship anymore when I was married, or it was always me who was the religious person, more person who was about God, the Spirit. I said, I will not enter this relationship without God leading us, showing us the way. And I said, if that's something that you can't handle, then I'm not the guy for you. And I'm good with that. I said, I'm totally good with that. And emotionally, and as Robert knows, I'm a talk anyway. I'm an expressive person. So if you can't handle my weakness in the moment of, as Mel said, that's when I'm at my strongest. Then if you can't handle that, then I don't need you. And then you got to miss me and move around with somebody else. And I'm good with that too.
Yeah, don't convict me for the crime somebody else committed. I probably use the God reference is much better, Steve, but I just be like, look, I ain't serving time for what somebody else did.
Hey, how many times have me and Mel talked about Previous Cats, the song Previous Cats? That's that's a real thing. Hey man, one of the reasons that well, it wasn't so much the reason, but we got asked a question earlier by one of our viewers, Drea, and I think Drea is probably a newer watcher, and the question that she actually asked was one that we had covered a time or two, and that was what does it take for brothers to be safe and vulnerable with sisters, and we all know that it is the comfort that the sister won't weaponize that space, that they'll walk away from that space, and he still feels 100%.
Don't give her too much. Don't give her too much. Tell her to come back next week, and we'll give her the answer.
Drea, that was part of it. Because
where he was going, Mel.
We're next week.
Hey man, we're probably under 3 minutes, man, and I don't know if who didn't get a chance to answer that question. Robert, did you? You ain't a 3 minute. You ain't a 3 minute answerer.
I am not a 3 minute man. That's right.
No. I said you're not a 3 minute answerer. The word on the street is that you are absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Let's keep it classy, gentlemen.
I'll get you later.
The thoughts and opinions of Sean Mason and anyone else on the show do not directly or do not.
You don't even know what you know.
Hey man, check it out. It's 9:58, and you guys have been amazing. Steve, thank you, man. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being your transparent self. Thank you for allowing us to experience that space with you. I'm already looking forward to the next time you grace us here, or I catch you in Hyde Park like I did the last time. You did?
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, man, all of you guys, man, I love you. Steve, don't leave. We're going to meet in the green room after the show. You guys were so good tonight. I forgot to ask everybody to share the URL and all that stuff. We jumped right in, man, and everything was so dope and so good. So the show is on YouTube. Go watch it there. It's on probably all of our pages. Watch it there. If you've been rocking with us for 3 years, I see you, Randy. You've been rocking with us for 3 years, man. We so appreciate you. We have goals and dreams of taking this thing bigger and broader, and we hope that you're still rocking with us when those things happen. And until next Thursday, it's been Live from the Cave. We'll see you right back here, same bat time, same bat channel, for sure.
Peace.
Camped out at home for COVID? Join us, Indie TV, where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.